I've always been a good girl. Played by the rules. Married the sensible man, built the picture-perfect life in our quiet corner of suburban Texas. But sometimes, when the moon hangs heavy in the night sky, I confess a terrible truth to the darkness: I'm bored. Soul deep, achingly bored. Don't get me wrong, Ethan is a catch. Works hard, loves me fiercely in his quiet, steady way. Yet, as we slip into the comfortable rhythm of our 9th year together, I find myself craving a different beat entirely. My girlfriends rave about breathless moments and stolen kisses that set their hearts on fire. My heart, well, it feels more like a dependable refrigerator. Constant hum, always there, rarely exciting. Then came James. Not the whirlwind I'd expected to disrupt my carefully ordered world, but Ethan's older brother, a hurricane disguised as a man. Where my husband is clean lines and pressed suits, James is wild brushstrokes and faded denim. An architect whose buildings scrape the sky, he carries the same rough-edged energy that makes watching him work a deliciously dangerous spectacle. The damn air conditioning's out again, I complained for what felt like the 100th time. Ethan was away on business. Of course. When James appeared on our doorstep, that familiar spark ignited. Tools clanged against the hardwood floor as he surveyed the unit, a low rumble of a chuckle escaping him. You break this on purpose, Sarah? Keeping me in the family, are you? There was a playful accusation there, and something hungrier? My cheeks flushed hotter than the Texas sun. Don't be ridiculous, I managed, the words feeling brittle. Yet, I couldn't stop the traitorous thought that he might be right. I was playing a game, and rules had suddenly begun to feel blurry. The weeks that followed were a strange, intoxicating dance. It started with a borrowed shirt that carried his scent, woodsy and warm, wrapping around me like a secret. Then came shared lunches under the guise of helping on a project, his laughter echoing in a way Ethan's never did. It felt like teetering on a precipice, the fall inevitable and somehow thrilling. One sweltering afternoon, alone after a cancelled client meeting, the temptation was a living thing, breathing inside me. A carefully engineered text about a leaking kitchen faucet and that familiar truck rumbled into my driveway. With every step James took towards the house, anticipation crackled through me, equal parts excitement and dread. This was madness, a betrayal wrapped in a thin veil of excuses. Yet, as he paused at the doorway, his gaze sweeping over me, that dread morphed into something far more dangerous. Desire. You look flushed, Sarah, James observed, amusement and something darker swirling in his eyes. I wanted to look away, to regain some semblance of control, but something held me captive. His gaze, the memory of my own reflection in the darkened window, my dress clinging in ways it never did for Ethan. Damn Texas heat, I mumbled, a poor excuse for my racing heart. He stepped inside, closing the distance between us. The house felt suddenly too small, the air too thick. Let's fix that then, he murmured, reaching past me to flip a switch. The AC roared to life, sending a welcome chill through the room. But my own internal fire was just beginning to blaze. Every shared project, every accidental touch, was adding fuel. James began staying later, the line between work and everything else dissolving with each passing sunset. Our conversations grew bolder, laden with double meanings and a flirtatious undercurrent that made the room crackle. It was a dance, a dangerous waltz where the music was composed of stolen glances and the unspoken promise of something forbidden. Then came the evening that changed everything. A thunderstorm raged outside, the house cloaked in shadows and the heavy scent of rain. Working on blueprints side by side, my hand brushed his. The spark should have been a warning, a sign to pull back. Instead, it felt like destiny, a whispered dare in the darkness. You're playing a dangerous game, Sarah, James said, his voice rough. My mouth went dry. Am I? My reply was a breathless challenge. And then, the world turned inside out. He was closing the distance, hands finding my waist, and then the rain seemed to be inside rather than out, our breaths mingling in the heated air. It was a hurricane, a wildfire, and I wasn't just standing at the edge. I was leaping headfirst into its intoxicating chaos. Our clothes were discarded like hasty afterthoughts, bodies moving with a frenzied desperation that surprised even me. He tasted of rainwater and something wilder, a potent mix that made my head spin. The touch of his calloused hands on my bare skin was a revelation, a language my body understood far better than the polite affection Ethan offered. It was a symphony of forbidden pleasure, the creak of floorboards, the hiss of the rain against the windows, our bodies finding a rhythm in the echoing silence of the house. There was no guilt in those stolen moments, only a desperate hunger that consumed me. When it was over, when the storm had passed both inside and out, all that remained was trembling exhaustion and the lingering ghost of his touch. The days that followed were a blur of stolen glances and whispered touches. He'd linger near my office, finding excuses to appear, and my heart would do that betraying leap every single time. We were acrobats on a tightrope, the slightest breeze threatening to send us tumbling into disaster. One night, a sound made me whirl around, the fear hitting hard for the first time. Ethan's keys rattled in the door. James scrambled to vanish, melting into the shadows as if he were never there. I pulled myself together, plastering a calm mask over my wildly beating heart. "Hey, sweetheart, you home early?" Ethan's voice, warm and familiar, cut through the silence. My lie slid from my lips far too easily. "Yes, client meeting got cancelled." Each word tightened the coil of guilt in my chest, yet even as I hated myself for it, a small, defiant voice whispered, "Again." The cracks began to show. At first, it was nothing grand. Suspicious glances from a neighbor whose dog I'd once dog-sat. Ethan's questions about my sudden increase in overtime hours. Each query sliced through my flimsy web of lies, and the coil of fear inside me wound tighter with every passing day. Sleep became a stranger. Vivid nightmares haunted me, James and Ethan morphing into one another in a grotesque dance of betrayal. I'd wake drenched in sweat, the lingering scent of James on my skin a cruel reminder of my sins. This secret was a wildfire inside me, consuming my every thought, tainting my interactions with Ethan. I found myself withdrawing, haunted by the phantom weight of James's touch, a grim reminder of another stolen embrace. Our once easy conversations turned stilted, awkward. Ethan saw it, the distance growing between us. That familiar ache returned to his eyes, not the dull ache of boredom, but a sharper pain of suspicion. In a desperate attempt to regain control, I suggested a romantic getaway. Ethan's face lit up with an optimism that stabbed at my guilt-ridden heart. Yet even surrounded by the beauty of a Caribbean beach, I couldn't escape my own reflection. James was a shadow that followed me in the sunlight, whispered in the crash of waves, a phantom lover whose very absence ignited a different kind of longing. On the day of our departure, I broke. Not with a grand confession, not with tears and trembling pleas for forgiveness. I simply couldn't do it. Not the destruction of Ethan, not the demolition of the life we'd built. I tucked the secret back into my fractured heart, vowing to extinguish its flame. Back home, James became a ghost. No more accidental drop-ins, no more stolen lunches. Yet, the silence was its own torment. Each ring of the phone, every unknown number, became a potential tsunami threatening to wash away my carefully rebuilt facade. My solace became work. I buried myself in projects, in the comforting lines and angles that made sense, unlike the swirling chaos of my own life. Ethan, bless his patient soul, attempted to bridge the gap. Date nights were planned, gifts left on my pillow. Each one felt like a fresh wound, a reminder of my utter unworthiness. Was this my punishment? To have what I yearned for dangling in front of me, forever out of reach? The breaking point came one quiet Wednesday night. Ethan stood in the doorway of my home office, the light from the hallway casting him in a long shadow. "Who is he, Sarah?" His voice was heartbreakingly soft, laced with a quiet devastation that tore through any lingering numbness inside me. The lies were a dam bursting. Sobs racked my body as the truth spilled from my lips. A confession of stolen moments, forbidden touches, a relentless hunger I couldn't control. Ethan's face crumpled, and something vital seemed to shatter inside of him. The silence that followed was deafening. The ending was messy, painful, drawn out over long weeks of arguments, tears, and empty apologies. Ethan left, and it was my fault. The house, once a refuge, now felt like a prison. James, the spark of it all, vanished as quickly as he had appeared. Word reached me through small-town gossip. A new project across the country, a clean break, perhaps a convenient escape. His absence echoed my own hollow sense of self. The ending isn't clean. There's no tidy bow to tie, no sweeping declaration of newfound love for my shattered husband. What remains is only ash and the echoes of a question I can no longer silence. Was the thrill of a fleeting flame worth burning down the life I'd built? What do you think about this story of mine? Please give me your comments below in the comments section. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to the channel to follow the next stories. Thank you.